Okay, so we are going to use layers in Photopea to create a landscape. So I looked up landscapes on Google, just so you can see landscapes are made up of a background, which would be the sky, the furthest thing in the distance. Oftentimes there's hills or mountains. Sometimes there's hills in front of those mountains. Then maybe some trees in the foreground. But slowly the landscape moves toward us as it goes lower on the page. And we're going to look at each of these parts as their own layers in Photopea, and practice using our layers. So I just hit new project there. You can choose any of these, but I'm going to choose the YouTube cover because it's a nice wide landscape shape. And I'll hit create. And my background is going to be, I'm just using this landscape as a reference. You don't have to use this landscape. You can use a different one, or you can make one up from your head. But I would recommend you look at some landscape photos to remind yourself how they're structured. So the sky is the furthest thing in the background, so I'm going to start with that color. And so that color is like a grayish blue. So actually I already chose this color, but if I go into my color picker here, where are you? Okay, we'll just go on down here. Yeah, that's not the color picker. This is our color picker down here. So I'm going to choose blue, and then I'm going to go over here and move the dot into the grayish blue area, and then I'm going to say OK. Then I'm going to go here, which normally I believe looks like a gradient to you, but if you click and hold, it gives you a little drop down pull-out menu, and you can choose the paint bucket. So then I'm just going to click in the canvas and make it a gray background. Now I'm going to go to this little tool right here next to the trash can and make a new layer. And then I'm going to go over to my lasso tool. And here's where I'm going to start moving from the back to the front by making layers. So I'm going to start with my mountains here. Just give myself some space here. So I'm just going to slowly draw some mountains, which could kind of be anything. And then I'm just going to swoop it around like that. The bottom edge is going to be covered by the things in front, so it doesn't matter what the bottom edge looks like. So I have this selection area. I'm going to go down to my color picker, and I'm going to choose a color that I want my mountains to be. I'm going to have them be like a dark blue, bluish gray. Then I'm going to pick my paintbrush again and click inside that shape to fill it with that color. Now, pay attention to this because you can't see it on the screen. You have to hit Command D, and it will deselect. Then we can go over here and make a new layer. Every section is its own layer. So I'm going to get my lasso tool again, and now I'm going to make some of the hills. So the hills are going to overlap with my, I don't like how that went, so I'm going to do Command D to deselect. Try again. Okay, and then this hill's just going to come around like that. And now I'll go out down to my color picker, and I'm going to pick a, let's see, yeah, a little bit lighter green. And then I'm going to get my paint bucket and fill it in. Okay, now I'm going to do Command D to deselect, and I'm going to choose a new layer. Actually, I want this layer to be in between this and this. I want it to kind of fill in this space here. So I'm going to move that layer in between. See that? It's right in between. And now inside that layer, I can grab my lasso tool and I can throw another little hill in there. And I'm going to change my color so that they look a little different. Can't use the same color or they'll blend in with each other. And I'll use my paint bucket to fill it in. And you see how it is behind this one because I have it underneath that layer. And it's in front of the mountains because I have it on top of the mountain layer. So I'm going to hit Command D. And then I'm going to go hit my little new layer button, make sure the layer is where I want it to be. I want it to be on top of everybody right now. And I'm going to choose my lasso tool. And I think I'll just put one, Command D. I'm going to do that one again. And this one's just going to fill in the whole foreground. And I'm going to choose a lighter green because it's close to us and might look a little brighter. And I'll get my paint bucket and fill it in, and Command D. Now we have something resembling a landscape, I could also add a new layer in. I'm going to put this layer in between the front two layers. And maybe I'll use my lasso tool to make some simple trees. Little tree blobs in the foreground here. Okay, there's a little tree, and I'm going to make it kind of like a greenish brown. And I get my paint bucket, stick that in there. If you're super smart, you can, while this is still selected, you can grab your Move tool and you can hold down Alt on your keyboard and click and drag and it makes a copy. And click Alt, click and drag, and it makes a copy. You can change the sizes. So maybe I'm going to stick this one back here and make it real small so it looks like it's far away. I'm going to hit Enter on my keyboard. Command D to deselect. And here is my little landscape.